Hello everyone, welcome to Indomitable Tech. I am your AIML consultant Shaunak, and in this particular video we'll be focusing on loops. So basically there are two types of loops in Python, for loop and while loop. We'll be taking a close look at both of them. So let's begin. So why use loops? So if there are certain tasks that you want to be executed over and over again repetitively, so in such cases you make use of loops instead of running the same operations over and over manually. So if you put it on loop, the system will keep on executing that task over and over as long as it is in the loop. So for loop is when you loop over a certain list or collection of items, and for while loop, if it satisfies a certain condition, then it will keep on executing that particular task. So that's when you use while loop. So the difference between for and while loop is, in for loop you are iterating over an iterative object. So what I mean by iterative object is a list of items or a dictionary or set. So basically it is a collection of items. So it can also be a string. So we'll see one by one the examples. And how while loop operates is, you give a condition, and as long as that condition is achieved, so as long as that condition is true, then it will keep on executing the code below that particular condition. So let's begin with the demonstrations. So I have mentioned the format for both the loops, for loop as well as while loop. So this notebook, it is hosted on GitHub, the link for which is in the description, so you can have a look at this notebook. So for loop, so this is the format. For item, so that is individual item in that particular collection. So for item in iterative object, so that iterative object can be list, dictionary, tuple or string. And here you can insert your logic code. So for example, let us execute over string. So if this is our string, red pandas are cute, and if we iterate over it, it will iterate over individual characters. So R, E, D space. So let's iterate over it. So for item in this str var, this variable, and we will print individual letters, print item. So if you see, these red pandas are cute, along with the space, white space in between, it gets executed one by one. Now if you want to add more conditions inside it or more operation, you can do that. So let us put the condition: if the alphabet is let's say A, so let's create a list of vowels A, E, I, O, U. So we will print only the vowels. So if item in A, E, I, O, U, so we are passing this if condition inside of this for loop. So if item in this, only then print the item, otherwise it will not print the item. So I'll execute it again. So if you see, only the vowels are getting printed. A, E, I is not there, O is also not there, but U is there. So basically let me just confirm whether I have used the term vowels correctly or not. Yeah, so vowels was correct. So A, E, I, O, U, if it is a vowel, then it is getting printed. Now moving on to list. So here we have this list saved under this list variable. So let us iterate over it. The syntax is for item in list variable. So let us print the item. So first item it will iterate, first item it will consider is 1, then it will consider 2, then it will consider 3 and 4 and 5. So let us put our operation. What we will do, we will print the squares of the particular item. So print item into item. So we'll be squaring the number and then printing it. So upon executing it, you see it is getting printed one after the other, 1 square, 2 square, 3 square, 4 square and 5 square. Similarly, you iterate over tuple as well. For item in tuple var, and what we'll do is we will multiply by 10 every element. So print item multiplied by 10. So these are the random operations that I'm doing just for example purpose, but you can definitely add your own logic to it, how you want to deal with that particular item. That totally depends upon you. So for every item in the tuple, it is multiplying by 10 and displaying that, since we have given the print command. Now moving on to set. So for set, what I will do is, let us iterate over the set. For item in set underscore var, we will again square every item, print item into item. So every element of the set we have squared. And lastly, we come to dictionary. Dictionary is a collection of key value pairs. If you iterate it over a dictionary like tuple or list, it will only consider the key values. So if I do this for item in dict var, and then if I again square the items, item into item, it will only square the key values. It will not square the value items in the key value pair of the dictionary. So to do that, we have to use items. So for key value, syntax will be key value because we are seeking key and value. So for key value in dict underscore var dot items. So dot items will give you key value pairs, a tuple of key value pairs. So here you can do print key and then print value, and just for demarcation purpose I will give it equal to sign, and upon execution we are getting key followed by value, then for next item key followed by value, then for third, fourth, fifth, sixth and seventh iteration. So this is how for loop works. There can be nested for loops as well. So like for example, let me just quickly give the name, nested for loops. So you are going to loop inside a loop. So first it will take the item from the first loop and then it will take the item from the second loop. So let's say there are, let's say, two lists. So list 1 equal to 1, 2, 3 and 4, and list 2 equal to 5, 6, 7 and 8. Now let us iterate over list 1 and then we will iterate over list 2. So for item 1 in list 1 and then for item 2 in list 2. So first we are considering the items in list 1 and then we are considering the items in list 2. So in this particular case, for first iteration of list 1 it is 1, and then in the next iteration of for loop, so it is item 5. Then in the next instance, so it will first clear out the nested for loop before coming out of the parent for loop. So let us print the values. Print list 1 item 1 is the value. I'll put it in f string, and list 2 item, I'll mention it as item, as item 2, and I'll put this demarcation line for our understanding. So I'm taking this out of the loop, out of the second loop, but I am keeping this inside the first loop. So once second loop gets executed, we will have this demarcation line, and now I will execute it. So if you see, for first it is iterating for the outer loop, and then it is completing the iteration for the inner loop. Then similarly it is taking the next item in the outer loop and then again redoing the same process, that is completing the inner loop. So this is how nested for loop works. Then moving on to the next type of looping, while loop. So the format is, you write while followed by a condition. So if that condition is met, only then that further code will be executed, which is inside that loop, that is your logic code. And then you have to pass in a statement which will break that loop. So this loop breaker is nothing but a condition which will end this particular condition. So that will break you out of the loop. This loop breaker is important because unless until this you break that loop, the code will keep on running, which is not required most of the times. So we want the resolution of our code, but this while loop will keep on executing the code perpetually if you don't enter this loop breaker. So let us see first example. So let's say we want the sum of numbers up to 10 but not above 10. So let's say number variable, we will say num var equal to, let's start with 0, and while num var is less than 10. So as long as this num var is less than 10, we will keep on adding 1 to it. So num underscore var equal to num underscore var plus 1, and let us print num var, and now I will execute it. So if you see, we are adding this condition, so it will keep on adding till this num var is 10. So in the last condition, in the last looping of this while loop, num var was 9, and after adding 1 to it, it has become 10. So once it has become 10, it is then trying to match this condition, that trying to match this condition of 10 being less than 10 but 10 is equal to 10. So this condition, it is breaking the loop. Now moving on to the next example. So let's create a list. Let's say list while, and here we will put the consonant vowels A, E, I, O and U, and let us put a while loop. The next thing is, let us create a string. So let's give it the name as test str as test string, and I will give it A, E, I, O, and then some non vowels like LM, and then finally U. And let me add one more A over there, so we have 2 vowels at the end. And now let us use the while loop, and let me just give index as 0. So we'll be using index to get the alphabet from this test string. So while test str, and let us start with the first alphabet. So while instead of 0, I will give it as index. So by default the first alphabet will be 0 because index is 0. So while this A is inside this list, the condition will be true. So while test string index in list underscore while, so as long as the alphabet is inside this list, we will be printing success, and then we will be incrementing this index by 1. So index equal to index plus 1. So as long as this is successful, we will be printing success. And let us also print the alphabet. So test underscore str index. So we will be printing this alphabet, and let us now execute this. So it is not giving space in between because we have not given space. So let us add space in between. success. And now if I execute, so we are getting success for a, because a because a is inside this list, then e is also inside this list, I and o, they are also inside this list. But when we are coming to this l, so l is not a vowel, so it is not inside this list. Hence this particular condition of the alphabet being present in this list, so that condition is breaking. So that is the condition breaker. So that's when the code is coming out of the loop. So that is the loop breaker instance, and hence it is breaking at this a, e, I, o. It is not taking l, and even if u and a are at the ending, so since the loop is already broken, it will not check for m, u and a. So that's how while loop works. It will loop only until the condition, the given condition is satisfied. If the condition is not satisfied, then it will break. Similarly, we can break the loop from inside the given loop. So let us say number equal to 1, and then while true, the loop will keep on executing. So number equal to number plus 1, and here you can also give a condition inside the loop. If number greater than 10, then break. Type in break, so break will break out of the loop. And if I execute it, so I'll give this print command at the beginning, print number, and if I execute it, so I am getting till 1 to 10, but when it is coming to this particular check, that if number is greater than 11, then it is breaking the loop. So once it crosses 10, once it becomes 11, then it is breaking, coming out of the loop. So this condition is the loop breaker. So make sure your code does not run inside the loop perpetually. It breaks out of the loop unless until the use case requires the code to be running inside the particular while loop perpetually. One more thing that I forgot to mention was inside this for loop, you can use the break operation inside the for loop as well. So let's say you have this list break, let us give it 1, 2, 3, 4, and if you want to break after just 2 iterations, so you can do that. But you have to give, let's say, count equal to 0, and for item in list break, sorry, I executed the code before I completed the code. Let me quickly put for item in list break, print item, will be printing it, and then count equal to count plus 1, and then let us put the condition if count greater than 1. So it will start with 0, then it will come to 1, and then it will come to 2. So once it comes to 2, it will break out of the loop. I will mention break. So if I print this, it is going for the first 2 items, and then it is breaking. If you want to break right after the first iteration, you can do that as well. For item in list break, print item and then break. So after just first iteration, it has come outside the for loop. So that's how for the break statement, so the break operation works inside the loops. Now last part of this particular video, list and dictionary comprehension. So instead of writing the loops in detail, like for item in that particular list, or for item in that particular set or tuple, or while inside the while loop, so instead of that, instead of for loop, you can do list comprehension. So if I want to square the items inside this list, I can do that. So but make sure you are doing this on list or dictionary. If you do this on a tuple, it will go under the generator comprehension. So for list comprehension, if I want to iterate, so I will do this as, let's say, list comprehension list comp equal to, put the list symbol, so empty list. So let's say item, let's take square of it, item into item, and then for item in this list var, for the list in which we are looping. So this part remains the same, for item in list var, and before that you have to mention the operation that you want to execute on that particular item of the list. So it is as easy as that. So the syntax remains the logic on that particular item followed by for item in list var. And if I now execute it, list comp, if you want to see, and if I execute it, this list comp has the value of square items from the list var. So 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36. So the square values of the individual items. And similarly, you can also put if condition here. So if I want to say we only want to take the square of, let's say, even values. So if item divided by 2 equal to 0. So if the remainder is 0, if the number is divisible by 2, only then feed that inside this list comp list. So if I execute now, we are only getting the squares of the even numbers. So this is how list comprehension is. So instead of writing multiple lines of code, you can do the entire operation in one line, list comprehension. Similarly, you can do for dictionary as well, dictionary comprehension. So let's say dict underscore comp, and here instead of list this square brackets, you have to give this curly brackets which are used for dictionary, and here you have to write in terms of key and value. So what we will do, we will square our keys and we will also square our values. So for string, if you multiply a string by itself, let's say Sunday, if you multiply Sunday by Sunday, it will just add to it. So sorry, not multiply, add. So it will be Sunday plus Sunday. So what we will do, we will square the keys and add or multiply the value by 2. So by multiplication I mean multiply by 2. So it will again be Sunday. So let us do that. So key multiplied by key followed by colon value multiplied by 2, and then this is the operation that we are doing for key value in dict var. This is our dictionary dot items, and then after executing it, dict comp, if I want to see, we have the square values of the keys, and then the values are repeated 2 times. So it is repeated once, sorry. So the values are appearing twice, Sunday, Monday. Similarly, it is not necessary that you have to print again the dictionary. So you can just take the key as well. So you can say dict comp 2 equal to, if you want to convert this to a list, you can do that. So if you want to see the list of just values, so value for key value in this dict var dot items, but make sure you put in the items, and here it should be key and value, and upon executing it, if I do this dict comp, I am getting list of only the values Sunday, Monday, Tuesday to Saturday. So you can use both key value together to form a new dictionary from existing dictionary, or if you want to create just list from the existing dictionary, you can do that. So that's dictionary comprehension. So basically list comprehension and dictionary comprehension helps you reduce the lines of code that you are executing. So quite handy when you are writing multiple lines of code. So to wrap up this lecture, so this video, so I'll just go through what we have discussed. First, we took a look at for loop that iterates over a collection of items. So that collection can be list, dictionary, tuple, or string. Then we checked while loops. So while loop executes when a given condition is true. So as long as that condition remains true, the while loop keeps on executing. And lastly, we saw list and dictionary comprehension, how list and dictionary comprehension works. There is also tuple comprehension. So tuple comprehension gives a generator, so that I have rarely used. So in my observations, that I have also seen it never used in my career so far, but that just wanted to mention that you can use comprehension on tuples as well. Tuple comprehension, it gives generator as the output, it gives a generator object. If you have any queries, please put them in the comment section, or if you want to contact me regarding a project, or if you want to collaborate, you can drop me an email on shaunak.python@gmail.com. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.